Hello everyone, this is Salar and you're watching tutorials on JavaScript. This is our tutorial number 12 and we have started learning data type. In the previous tutorial, we covered undefined data type and the second data type that we have on our list is number. So this tutorial is all about number data type. So the number is the most interesting data type and in programming, you will work almost all the time with this type. So let's dig into it and see how it works. So the number data type in JavaScript represents integer values and floating point values. And I hope you know the difference between integers and floating point values. Integers are numbers without decimal section and floating points are numbers with decimal. So in JavaScript, integer and floating point have only one data type, that is number. So we will look one by one how do we create number data type using integer values and floating point values. Are you ready? So let's check it out. So integers are basic numbers without decimal part. And you can create a number type variable holding an integer value just by directly assigning the value to the variable. So this count variable holding an integer and its data type is number. You can double check its type using the type of operator. And you can even read its value just by writing the name of your variable. Like you see here, the data type of our variable is number and the value that is assigned to it is 10. Right, so creating number data type with integer value is not so difficult. And I have nothing more to show here because it's very simple. Integer variables can also hold octal and hexadecimal values. But I'm not covering this here. I can leave links in the description that you can check out later on if you are interested in working with hexadecimal and octal values, right? Let's now jump onto the floating point numbers. So just like integer, you can create a floating point variable just by assigning a floating point value to it. So this price variable is holding a floating point value and the data type of this variable is also number, right? You can double check its type using type of operator and you can read this variable easily in the console. And there you see, variable is holding a floating point value, but its data type is also number, right? So the number data type in JavaScript represents both integer values and floating point values. Now, while working with floating point numbers, there are some small things that you need to be careful of. So let me write for some examples and then we will discuss them one by one. So our first statement is okay. Whenever you define floating point value, you must include a decimal point and at least one number after the decimal point, right? Now look at the second statement. This floating point value has a decimal point, but there is no digit after the decimal point, right? So JavaScript converts this value into integer and it always looks for the ways to do that because floating point values use twice as much memory as compared to integer values, right? So you need to be careful of when you write a floating point value like this. And in the third statement, JavaScript will do the same because the floating point value is represented as a whole number and it can easily be converted into an integer, right? Now, one last comment is if you have a very large or very small floating point value, then you can use E notation just like you do in mathematics. E notation simply means a number multiplied by 10 raised to a given power. Let's say if I have a large number like this, then you can easily represent this number in JavaScript like this. So this is a more compact way to represent large numbers in JavaScript. And this E notation can be in uppercase or lowercase. And it simply says take this part and multiply it by 10 raised to the power 7. And so you will get this number back, right? And similarly, you can represent a very small number using a notation. Let's say we have a number like this, and it can easily be coded using a notation like this. So now we have done with this tutorial, but we are not done with this topic because we learn number data type in JavaScript together with a function which is called isNaN and number conversions. So what you learn now is how to work and create number data types. And in the next tutorial, you will learn a very useful function in JavaScript which is called isNaN. IsNaN function is used to determine if the value passed to it is a number or not a number. And after isNaN, we will see how do we perform number conversions in JavaScript. And then we would say we have covered number data type. Right, so I will see you in the next tutorial and we will talk about isNaN function. Stay tuned and thanks for watching.